changing the rules up. TPS Media.
Here we go.
There it is.
And we got a monkey face.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody.
You're live, sir.
Yeah, I'm live. I just got to find me on TPS,
Yeah,
and
it's like the first one.
there we go. We're gonna share that
See, I
too.
just shared.
You shared there. Onto CVO?
No, I didn't do CBO.
All right, I didn't think so.
I can't. I can do training, but not the CBO side.
Here we go.
There you go. One person is looking at you.
That's all right.
They're watching you read while you move your mouth.
We could try to purposely throw it off, make it look like one of those subtitle
like
movies.
a Japanese movie.
All right, I shared it. We should be up and rolling. Alrighty. This is that behind the scenes thing that everybody gets to see, right?
That's right.
Like the fancy world versus the unfancy world, and
Countdown.
countdown.
Three,
3, 2,
two,
1.
one.
That's where Simon says, "You guys are on." He make it all fancy. You guys ready to go? All right, we're just going to start talking the world. Welcome back to CVO Gun Talk, where we actually have a special guest today. So, Amanda Brandt, welcome.
Thank you.
Nervous?
I am horribly nervous.
All right. Well, I'm proud of you. Even if you're nervous, I'm proud of you. I expect you to be nervous. I understand. So I'm going to dive right into this. I've known you for a long time, as in I've known your parents for a long time. It would have been last July.
Yes.
You walked up to the parking lot and called me by name and said, "Do you know who I am?" And I've told people this story. I've told the public story somewhat, but I've told my closer friends this story of, like, this has happened more than once. So you've learned this. Like, you're not the only one.
Yes.
But, yeah, you're like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And as soon as you started walking across the parking lot, I could tell your disposition, and you started getting emotional, and I'm like, this isn't good. And it's one of those things that I think your very words are, you said, "I think your training saved my life."
Yes, I do recall that.
And I have told people that, being a business owner, and we're all not all millionaires. We have normal lives like everybody else with taxes, stress. And that was like, there's times in life that even though I'm motivated and I'm going to keep doing what I want to do, or what I am doing, that was like the paycheck you get that day was kind of like that's what makes people keep going, As like a lot of small business owners, there's times you don't, I don't pay myself, or, "Hey, we're not going on vacation," or, "Hey, I can't afford that," or, "I still drive a rusty 2008 car and I make payments on it." But when you came up and said, "I think that saved my life," that's the best kind of paycheck in the world. But it's sad to hear, but it makes me want to keep going. So you and I, we've been talking for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this was like private, as in this is your private life. You were waiting for your court case to be over. So, for the public, there's a lot of new details to them that I already know, but frustrating.
Yes.
Frustrating. With as little or as much detail, you just how it started. So everybody understands, this went down in July of 2016.
Yes, it was on July 4th. I've been married. It was about 2.5 years at that point. It was 4th of July, and we went out and we had a few drinks, and generally my ex would times he'd get very angry when he drank. Because the first time, it was just the only time that I had called the cops, and it had never been this bad. But we had got home. I said that I was going to bed. I was taking the dogs with me. He went on a rampage about, "Why don't you trust me with the dogs?" Kicks me to the floor, gets on top of me, and proceeds to choke me. I don't know exactly what happened. I mean, there's bits and pieces that I don't know if I remember. But basically, at that point, he's choking me, and I cannot breathe. I'm trying to yell for help. I know the back windows are open, but like I I said, 4th of July. I have no idea if anybody heard me. And the neighbors, I did finally ask them about a month or two ago, and they had no clue. So I'm not sure how much was really coming out at that time. At some point, he goes to push up on my nose, and his finger comes across my mouth, and I bite as hard as I can on his finger. At that point, I think I might have got kicked or hit again based on all the differencing on me. But he's like, "How do you like this, bitch?" And he starts wiping blood all over the sofa from his finger. I later saw the finger injury, and it was literally almost like the size of a paper cut. It wasn't that I bit his finger off or anything like he wants to make it sound like. So I get him off. I run to the bathroom. I immediately call 911. I have not listened to that tape. They couldn't get the audio work the day that I was with the prosecutor. And honestly, I don't know if I'd want to hear it. I know I was very upset. I have seen the pictures from that evening. The injuries that I ended up having were strangulation marks around my neck. I had a black eye. I had bruises on my chest. I got kicked, and I ended up having sore ribs for a while and bruising on there as well.
Yeah. I just want to point out a couple things. So we're going to circle back around. But his finger made him quit attacking you?
Yes.
Yeah. So doing something, I understand you were being attacked, but there's going to be people who feel like, well, I can't do anything with this guy that weighs more than me on top of them. But, like training, and you've been in some training like where we say that, the bad news is his hands are on you. The good news is his hands are on you. As far as like, if he's going to try to cover up your mouth, then that gives you an opportunity for something to bite. And no, I think you very clearly remember that, like we tell everybody, whatever you did to survive was great. There's no rules. There's no, you should have done it this way. You should have done that way. You're here to tell your story. And, it's unfortunately, it's new to you, as in you are alone and you've been on an alone island for a long time. Yeah, there's more than 500 cases here in Linn County of this.
Yes.
It's like, and I'm sure you felt in the very beginning like, oh my God, I'm the only one,
I felt I didn't know who I could talk to because it's not that anybody really publicly say this has happened. I mean, up until today, I had not wrote anything about it on my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that this comes to a surprise as a lot of people. The close people to me knew what was happening, but there are a lot of people that had no idea up until today.
Well, I'm going to some questions. Are you ready? So
I'm
other
ready.
people can help understand. How hard's it been even after surviving the event?
The first month, I'd say I felt like I knew that I was on the heart, and like I was going to the gym regularly, and I had a huge friend support system. Your friends are always there right when something happens, and as this went on, some of those people kind of drop off. They're not checking in on you anymore. They don't understand, like, why are you moping? Why aren't you leaving the house? People they don't get how you feel. The hardest thing, I think, for my friends to understand was there were just certain days I did not want to do anything. I did not want to go out in public. I did not want to receive him. I was scared. I would go out if it was with friends that knew what he looked like, but I laid pretty low, and he has a 3 to 11 work schedule, and so if he was working, I felt more comfortable going to the grocery store or early in the morning when I knew he'd still probably be asleep. Or if it was during the daytime, I'd go across town. I just did not want to see him anywhere.
Sure. That support system, or it can get small, can it?
Yeah, pretty small. The last few weeks, I was feeling really frustrated with that.
Sure.
And then at the trial, the date changed 3 times, and the next date was supposed to be in in May. And I'm sitting here going, my nerves are shot, and I only have this core group of people here for me now. And it was getting hard, but luckily those core people have been wonderful to me. So.
And just for everybody to know, your court case was officially on Friday.
And it was unexpected.
Sure.
So,
Can I walk it back just a little bit?
Walk it back.
I'm walking back.
Let's do it.
So can you talk a little bit, just as much as you want, about what happened after the 911 call, like when law enforcement showed up, and what happened in that situation?
I will say that the Cedar Rapids Police Department was actually wonderful. They got there very quickly. They were very professional. They were just absolutely wonderful to me. I didn't know how something like this would go, but the amount of comfort that they were trying to, we understand, I mean, the one guy even had his hand on my shoulder. I mean, they were clearly trying to calm me down. They genuinely seemed sincere that this was all going on. One of my friends arrived shortly after. The pictures of different injuries. They took the statement. And then, of course, they tried to find him. And
So he had left at this point?
he did. Yep. So once I called 911, there was a bunch of obscenities yelled at me. He said, bitch, if you call them, we're done. So at this point, I'm somewhat thinking, because I'm trying to process everything going on. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm destroying my marriage. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to talk. You have 5 million thoughts running through your head, and you don't know how to deal with that at that time. He grabbed a bag and what I believe to be some drug stuff from the garage. I did not know that this was in my house. I've later found evidence of other things. So there were other issues going on. I had no clue about my entire marriage. But he fled, and we tried talking to his mom. The cops went over to his mom's house, and she said she had no idea where he was at. So he didn't get picked up until 11 hours after the incident. That time, he already had plenty of time to kind of formulate what his story was going to be. And his story has kind of changed at various points. But the latest version that he had given coincided with my injuries to the point that he was trying to meet me, then he said that we're wrestling around on the floor. So he tried to work it in his favor on how those marks got on me.
Sure. And so once the police left, kind of what happened there? I mean,
well, my frustration on that part, everybody wants you to leave your home. and both times the cops have been called, they want you to leave, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not leaving
it's
my
house too, right?
Yeah. So, I kind of jokingly, I'm like, well, I have my permit to carry, and I have my Ruger LC9, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, sure. And I just didn't want to leave my house. I have 2 dogs, and honestly, with all the doors locked, I still felt somewhat safe. Not safe, but what if I were to have left and something happened to the house? And I know that Ernie will probably say, well, those things can be replaced. And but I know that I couldn't leave the house at that point.
You, couple of things, and I'm just gonna, like I said, we're gonna keep circling back. So that way, if people are listening, first of all, he pled guilty Friday, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
So we can get that out of the way for all these people that are watching, and I would bet anybody that's following this story through CVO or whatever, they're not naysayers anyway. But I just want to clarify, he pled guilty.
And you have all the documentation.
Yeah, I have
on everything.
I have more about this than I ever wanted to. So I actually care less about him. I care that you move on. I'm excited that you want to share your story, and you know what I mean by excited, as in I didn't want to re-meet you this way, but when you said, when this is all over, I want to help other women, well, we have a platform for that. We're all about you helping some other women because, and it's, I told you when you brought your friend to carry class again, right? Like a second, and it's like, you unfortunately know more than others when I say, there are times you probably thought like, oh, he's bringing this up in class because of me. He's talking about this because of me. When really, and what I'm referring to is the fact that it's one thing just to survive the event. Oh my God, I survived, I'm alive. But it doesn't, sometimes that can feel like it's outweighed by all the stress of what happens later.
Yeah.
I've said to you several times, because you understand better than some and better than most of us, is a man for you. Now you're the lady on the news that, oh my God, you shot him, when all you did was bite him. But you've already got enough publicity, as in, and I'll say within your own world. You're a realtor, right?
Yes.
Accepting new customers
All the time.
All right. So
that's the whole reason I took your class, the self-defense class,
Sure.
actually, and got the permit to carry. I thought that I would have to, and maybe at some point having used that in my industry. I never ever imagined, we've talked about this before, I never imagined that I'd
Sure.
be trying to save my life from my husband. So,
And like we say in classes, you know, especially for women, somewhere between 50 to 70% of the time they face violence, it's in the home or at work. And, you know, and then you, even more than some people, can say, yeah, work, that makes sense to me because I'm a realtor and I go to houses and I have to meet strange people. You know, not, hey, I work at this bar or this restaurant or I work at Rockwell. It still applies to those people, you know, workplace violence, active shooters, those kind of things. But yeah, you are exactly, you know, you're a statistic now. You're one of the fact that most women are attacked by somebody they know. You know, 28% of women in this country are killed by their significant other. Yours, whether we want to call it, you know, who knows how far it would have went if you didn't bite him, don't know. I don't want to think about it, but you are exactly who needs to speak out about this, but you understand. I want everybody to know I didn't chase you down and say, let's talk about this, right?
No.
I mean,
we had kind of talked about it for
Sure.
a while, and I just felt I needed to be ready, and I'd really wanted the case done before I did anything.
I remember a couple times pissed off Amanda.
Yes.
Like, no one told me it was going to be like this. No one told me about this crap. And you know, and you're like, I want other people to know what it's going to be like. Definitely. I would say a couple times you've been a very emotional. You're mad, sad, a lot of things all at once. So again, I can't make clear enough how proud I am of you for doing this and helping people. And if you can reach one person and help somebody out there, that's awesome. I definitely think, I've told you before, my words toward you is if you want a soapbox to talk to women about this, I'm going to give you a soapbox. We'll give you a really big soapbox. And several things I keep going back to. When you said, there's things I may never remember, right? So, you know, that's like we tell people is, you know, when you call 911, you know, you've been involved in a shooting, defensive, you use of reasonable force. Biting him was reasonable force. If you had to beat him with a chair, it's reasonable force. If you would have shot him, it would have been reasonable force.
You're shaking and you're crying, and it just all goes so fast.
So, you have classes called Land Plane. You know, we try to teach people that there is things you should try to do when you call 911, and that is focus on, you know, hey, first of all, tell them where you're at so they can start sending the cavalry, everybody. Second of all, tell them what happened to you, as in, what's the bad guy doing? You know, your case, you're in your own home, you're attacked by your husband. But I just want to use your example of your words of you said, there's a whole bunch of things I don't remember. You know, and we try to make clear to people in training is, you're the worst witness ever of what Amanda did. It's not like you were in the ceiling watching you go through this. You know, you remember him doing this, him choking that, him. And so, you know, and again, we're just going to use your example for several reasons of you survived a life or death situation and things are unclear what happened. And, you know, we always encourage people that before you give any official statement, you know, like this is my official statement to the police, especially in a use of force involving, you know, deadly force. You know, go do that with a lawyer and go do it several days later after you, you know, process things. So here's questions I've never asked you before, and they're easy, so bear with me. Did you remember more and more details as time went on?
I did remember a little bit more. When I met with, I did not originally remember that he pushed up on my nose until the very next day. And then I also, when I was with the prosecutor last week or 2 weeks ago, he showed me pictures from the cops, and I was told by his attorney during depositions that I had blood on me. There was never any blood on me. I had the same outfit on that I had worn that night. I'd clearly not changed my clothes or anything. So it is kind of weird how they try to trick you up on some of that stuff, and it makes you start second guessing, like, did I change my clothes? I've changed my clothes. And so some of that, until I saw the pictures, I didn't officially know. I didn't remember whether or not he did.
Sure.
So,
you know, you can see how people would say, you know, he pushed up on my nose, and they're like, oh, you know, why didn't you tell us that the first day? Or are you lying now, or were you lying?
She's got to
then?
be lying.
Yeah.
Remember that, right?
No,
Yeah.
it's people that have been through traumatic things, and whether it's physical assault, a sexual assault, attempted murder, or a really bad car accident or whatever. Until people have been through really traumatic things, they don't realize, you know, your brain's only going to give them information to survive seconds at a time, and then a couple days it'll start giving you back some crazy, very clear pictures of things that happen.
but even the bruising, some of the bruises, I didn't notice them right away. I took my shirt off, lips were there, and looked
Sure.
for it. I mean, I remembered the neck stuff right away. So as the week went on, I took pictures every day so you
Good.
could see how the bruises changed color. And obviously, being in Iowa and being middle of summer, nice tan
Mhm.
till it started turning purple. I didn't notice some of it quite as much.
Sure.
So
Sure. And another thing, I'm just going to use your story to point some things out is there's people that survive, and Mike's the medical guy, so I'll let him use the fancy words, but there's people that survived attempted strangulations, and hours later their throat starts to swell closed. True or true or false?
Yeah, you can
As in-
damage the trachea and
Yeah.
esophagus and that sort of thing. You get swelling. It's a pretty serious issue that happens with people that get trauma to that area.
And I did refuse medical treatment that night, but I did go to the family doctor the next morning because my throat, it was very sore at that point.
Probably tensing it quite a bit at that point.
I was,
You don't use the muscle in your neck like a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah.
so I
yeah.
did end up seeking medical treatment the next day.
Couple things. We'll keep coming back. Do you have a no contact order?
Yes.
Did he violate it?
Twice.
Yes.
It doesn't mean a whole lot.
No.
I actually felt one of my frustrated days when I had talked with you. I said that I felt like making a video and burning it live. And
So
putting it on
you're
Facebook.
saying on paper may not stop people from doing what they want to do.
It's a shocking thing. Yeah.
It is shocking.
Yeah, I know. It's only smart ass when I say it, but
Smart
yes,
ass when I
she's-
say it,
Yeah,
too.
I know, but she's the real life example of and you'll remember in class we encourage all women, and guys too, get no contact orders. Make document problems with these people, not because this is going to stop someone from attacking you, but it's to establish that hey, this person is a little and they broke the law, which is how the police ended up in your house on July 4th. But they're going to continue, and you have come to realize what, and I tell lots of people on Facebook all the time, and I get certain feedback from certain people about you're trying to scare people into this or this or this or this. I think you pretty clearly understand now you're the number one person to be in charge of Amanda's safety. You're like,
Yeah. I can't have somebody with me 24/7.
No.
So.
it's, and that's the thing. Like you said, CRPD, even on a national average on it, Cedar Rapids Police Department has awesome response times, but look how much violence happened in seconds, you
Yeah.
know, and nor did you see the violence coming, like you've already said kind of things as, hey, I had my carry permit and I have a gun because of my job. And here you are again, worried about a stranger when the most common danger is somewhere around you. Not that it's always somebody's spouse, but brother-in-law, brother, whatever, cousin, the mailman that knows where you live, the delivery guy, Mike and I will talk about that later, that Oklahoma shooting, why did they pick on us? Because they had
Right.
made deliveries there. So,
Yep.
we always tell people it's usually someone that knows you, which is why it usually happens at home or at work. They know where to find you. And again, yes, your job description, if we didn't say Amanda is a realtor, anybody, is if you just wrote the job description of realtor, it sounds insane. Meet strange people in houses that you're not familiar with. You don't know how the doors open inward or outward or whether the locks work.
And light switches.
Yeah,
on.
where the light switches are, or hey, by the way, it's a foreclosure and there's no power, but let's meet strangers there and walk around. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy industry, but maybe there'll be. In the past, I've known a lot of husband, wives, whatever. I've seen realtor teams. You almost start thinking that's the way to do it. That just always be two of you, always. And I know a lot of realtor teams don't even mean they go to the same showings together, but you almost get to where it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Always have somebody with you. But
So how difficult is the process of getting a contact order for people that may not know, or even thought they might have to do that? Was that difficult? Was it
No.
pretty easy? Or
So one misconception a lot of people had is I did not file charges on him. Once the cops come to your house and they have the evidence that from the incident that took place, they're the ones that charged him with the felony. It is
Right.
not me that pressed charges. So I know that's a big
well,
misconception.
they're required to.
Yes. Yep. And so even if I didn't want to cooperate, they would still have had the evidence in my statement at that point. But with that, they did give me the no contact order right away. It was just kind of like issued. I had something in the mail. or my attorney sent it to me just a few days later or something like that. But it was pretty much right away.
So what was the verbiage? I mean, what did it say? Like, hey, stay away, or was it like pretty specific?
Well,
or...
I happen to have a copy.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good. All right.
Yes. Right. Stay away.
Yeah.
If he texts you, does that violate it?
Yes.
If he calls you,
Yes.
he writes you a letter.
Yes.
If he has a friend come and say he wants to talk to you.
Yes.
Yes. So people understand that. And it's a good legal loophole to have. I shouldn't say loophole. It is a loophole as in you need to set it so when he breaks it, you can have him arrested.
And I didn't do that the first time, which we can certainly talk about. But, with the no contact order, the last incident that you and I had talked about was on March 7th. He broke that. And he called from a stranger's phone number. I had a witness. It automatically put on speakerphone. He was yelling into the phone, though, so you could hear before it was on speaker. He was not picked up until the 16th, the 7th to the 16th.
What was that like?
That was frustrating because he obviously knew I had called the cops. And so it just made me panic that much more because here I've ticked him off again. And I didn't know what was going to happen. It made me scared again to leave the house. And then, of course, I failed to renew my permit, so I didn't have that what was going on either.
But is that the only option? No, we talk a lot about that. The firearm's not the only deal, right? There's
I did
other
get a
things.
security system.
Sure.
And you have ankle biters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two
Good
little,
alarms. I
little
got a couple of
ankle
alarm dogs myself.
Yep. They. I use the video camera thing to spy on them now, but. They sit by the front door. If anybody breaks in, they are by a door.
You should mess with them and talk to them. You get the when you see them sniffing around the trash can.
Yeah.
So the no contact order is pretty easy to get.
Yep.
But harder to enforce.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that was a big frustration because I don't know, I'm naive or I just, lack of experience with this stuff. I thought once somebody broke it that they would immediately get picked up. And I guess I had a hard time understanding, like, why is it taking so long? Because they had told me that it could take up to a week to investigate the situation before making an arrest. And so he did get picked up, and then he was out the next day. And we were going to court this last Friday, actually, because of the no contact order, and it would have been probably 7 to 10 days in jail is what they were telling me for breaking that. Sure. So, and I didn't call the first time. The first time he broke the no contact order, it was July 22nd, and it was, once again, completely caught me off guard, but it was, I'm so sorry, I love you, I didn't mean for this to happen, and so it was really hard because, I'm sitting there going, but you hurt me, you nearly killed me, and so I don't think anybody can pre-warn you the emotional roller coaster. I mean, there were times where I was making excuses in the beginning, like maybe if he did some sort of treatment somewhere and got help for the alcohol and stuff like that, maybe if he did that, maybe we could make this work. But we'd already been doing counseling, and clearly that wasn't working. I mean, I feel like I had tried everything that I could, but to get those phone calls, when you feel like, okay, I'm doing all right, I've got this, and then you get those phone calls and all of a sudden you're going, am I making a mistake? And I think that was probably the hardest thing is through some of these hurdles is wondering if I was doing the right thing. I mean, we all make mistakes in life, but, like I said, it wasn't the first time and things had gotten worse. And so
I have talked to you at several points in your roller coaster.
There's been a lot of roller coaster rides here.
You've had some, when I say decent days is I've talked to you when I have heard you have the tone of, well, what if I could work this out? What if this and this? And, I get it. Like, I get it because I've seen it before, unfortunately, enough times to where I think it would surprise some people to know how normal that is. You just survived somebody trying to kill you, and a month later you want to forgive them.
And you were very good at setting me straight on.
I hope you did. I lecture you?
No, you didn't lecture me. You just remind me of what happened and remind me that
Here's my question to you. So, as the married woman that you are, is it just randomly?
Hopefully, soon to be divorced woman.
Soon to be available to go to Cubs games.
Yes,
woman.
So
Go Cubs, a real Cubs fan. Since you were how old?
It was like third the starter coat.
All right,
it was a legit thing.
For all you guys out there, that are Cubs fans. She's not a poser. So,
no.
Do you think that in the 30 days afterwards, 60 days afterwards, some of the times you talk to me, and when I say you were starting to go back, I don't mean that you're going back to him, but it was less anger and more frustration of I just want my life back. But do you think that played a part in ever trying to say, could I work this out with him, is just how your life had exploded and you were just living in a ball of stress?
I think the thing that like finally triggered me was I had filed for the divorce the same week that all this happened. And the thing that really triggered me is when he sent over from his attorney finally getting a response and saying that he wanted everything, including the house. That was when I was done. That
Was that slap in your face?
That was a complete slap in my face.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's still not working with me on the divorce. And I don't understand if I'm such this evil person that he's claiming I am to all his friends, you know, because he's innocent, of course.
Innocent until he pled guilty right here
Yes.
last Friday.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just remember my.
So I think it's funny that his friends, I'm the evil one. And of course, his mother made comments about, well, she works out every day. Well, he's also got 20, 30
Those guys
pounds
work
on
out
me.
every day, so
Yeah, but because I'm a female and worked out every day and he didn't, you
Sure.
know, that makes me an aggressor.
how about just
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the things the police department investigates during their initial investigation. Who is the aggressor? And that's who they file charges on.
Yeah.
They didn't go into that situation assuming it was him.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that they don't normally just randomly say, hey, we're going to charge Ernie with a felony today. I mean,
Right.
it's a part that frustrates me. I don't think a lot of his friends and stuff understood was obviously he did something. The cops don't just charge you with a felony for nothing.
Right.
And so that was a big,
and you don't
Big
plead to
thing.
things that you the key words here, just so everybody, he all of a sudden pled because he took charge,
yes, which
and you were willing to do that.
I was tired of being all this. Depositions were really hard. He was calling friends and trying to drag them into the situation. Fortunately, there wasn't a whole lot bad to dig up on me.
Sure.
But the other thing is, it did strain a lot of friendships.
Let me pause you 1 second so people can learn from you. Yet they did try to dig things up, don't they?
Oh,
Nothing's off limits.
I have 2 packets here in my hand I'm holding that are probably 50 Facebook and Instagram posts. And
That you made?
Yeah. He still has people that are telling him stuff, and I've already deleted half my friends. So I've been seeing a counselor during some of this to try to process stuff, and she said that generally people, when we post stuff online, it is a very positive type thing. I mean, like, especially in my business, it's not going to be like, woe is me, you know, my husband beat the crap out of me last night, whatever. So, I mean, I still tried to keep upbeat on stuff. And for the most part, for the first month I did. But a lot of that at that time was still the friends coming to your house and saying, you need to leave the house. We need to go to do something. You've got to go work out. And so none of this was bad. None of it was about him. It was about my life, you know, and I wasn't going to sit there and be like, well, I'm sitting at home watching Netflix all day, eating Ruffles sour cream and onion potatoes, which did happen quite a while.
Isn't
for a
that
while.
glorious, though?
It
And
was.
you were petting 2 dogs at once?
Yeah, and I was in my pajama pants all day.
all
But,
right.
so I did go through that, but you know, you're not going to post that on Facebook and then people don't want to call you to use you as their realtor because they're like, well, you're not working. Why would I call you? So you're putting on a front, you make things seem okay. Inside, you're just completely collapsing. And I mean, it's hard. But that got used against me. The fact that I was,
That you had a positive attitude.
yeah, and the fact that I was going to the gym and stuff like that got used against
Trying
me.
to keep some semblance of normal life.
Well,
right?
if it really changed your life like it said you did, or like you said it did, then why are you doing these things?
Yeah,
Why?
they actually literally want you to hide to be a hermit to prove
Yeah.
that it really happened.
That's how I
Yeah.
felt.
Sure.
And it's frustrating.
Instead of looking at like maybe an example, but like is good for you,
yes.
like mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Let alone socializing with people.
And I mean, that I work out. I used to work out time every day. I mean, I had that support group and friendship with those people, and they were there and they were pushing me. and they wanted me to do this stuff. I mean, there's been so many change. My schedule changes a lot because I want to be in a set routine or anything. I just don't know. I feel uncertain a lot yet. And so there's a lot of things that are not back to normal, and maybe someday they will, but right now.
While you're talking about this, I want to go back and say, you know, we talk to people in classes like, God forbid you ever have to shoot somebody. Whether the bad guy lives or dies, that's a matter of science and anatomy and all that. But we talk about the Mark of Cain syndrome, you know, that, hey, you will be treated different by your friends. And one of the things I share with people is like, you'll have friends that don't want to bring up anything to do with guns or going shooting or hunting or whatever. It's like, oh, we better not talk to Mike about that anymore because Mike had to shoot somebody last summer and he was in the news and it's been hard on his family. So we're just not going to talk to him anymore. So tell me a little bit how that rings true to where people don't want to talk to you. You know, you've told me before, it's like, well, my support system started out big and it got smaller and smaller and people fall to the wayside.
They think it's done. I mean, I legally changed my name back in September to my maiden name. So people just like automatically thought like I snapped my fingers and I'm divorced. I'm still not divorced.
Sure.
And I think part of that too is they don't understand how long the legal process is. They just assume like, okay, he got charged with something. You're going to go to court. It's going to be done. 30 days is over. Boom. You're in the clear.
Let's go to Vegas for New Year's Eve.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody really has any idea. I mean, the first trial date, this happened July 4th. The first trial date was set for October. Then it was supposed to be in January. And then it got moved in May. I mean, that would have been almost a year in July. And so it's just hard for me to understand. And as I've been like learning about this and our legal system and how backed up the courts are and everything else, I mean, it's hard because the one thing I've said throughout this is I'm lucky to be single. If I was married or if I had children and all that stuff, it'd be so much harder. If I would have been a stay-at-home type person instead of having a job that I could earn my own income, I mean, I don't know how people with children go through this because it was hard enough just dealing with me through this.
Sure.
And so,
and like you said, you're your own breadwinner, so to speak, as in something you said way back a long time ago was very important. And in law enforcement training, they try to remind you those things of, isn't it amazing? You said the key words. Everybody just expected you to leave. Like, oh, you're the victim, but we want you to leave everything in your house and all these things you worked for and walk away.
Wasn't happening.
Yeah, but it's in we have to, everyone, we as in society, you have to be careful how you say that. Underlyingly, what they're saying is get away from him and get yourself safe. But when you're expected to give up your whole life, the Reserve Academy, I went up to Hawkeye. What is it called? Hawkeye Tech. And there was, yes.
Yep.
And we had an instructor from Waterloo PD at the time. I swear I remember his first name was Al, but I could be wrong. He did a really
was
interesting.
it Al Qaeda?
No.
Not Al
No,
Qaeda.
the levies in
Just one.
New Orleans. So, but one of the interesting things they did, my friend Mark, who still works at a local PD, he was a reserve at the time too, or going through Reserve Academy. He was sitting next to me, and so this instructor's like, we're sitting in this class, and we know we're about to do this whatever 1 day or half day block on domestic abuse and all that. And so, like, he's like, hey, I want you guys to take all your stuff out of your pockets. You know, take your wallet, put your keys out, and do this and this and this. And I want you guys to stand on the table. And we're like, okay. And there's, there are tables like in my store.
Yeah.
You get me and Mark on one table, we're going to look at each other like, is it going to hold us? But no, like instructor, I don't want to have to ask you twice. Get up on the table. So we get up on the table and we're just standing there like, this is weird. Never saw this coming. There's all our keys and everything. And I can't remember what he says for the next couple of seconds, this and this and this. And then he's just like, all right, I want you guys to turn around, walk out of here, and just get out of here and never come back. And, I mean, we're all just dumbfounded, like, okay, this must be some kind of learning process I've never seen before. And then he literally uses some four-letter words and stuff like that, like when they train police, and told us to get out of the room very harshly, right? So we're like, okay. So we're climbing down off these chairs, and we're going to walk out of this room that we're supposed to be in all day. And when you went to reach for like your wallet, you started to grab your keys or stuff. I mean, he screamed at you, leave it all here and get out of here. And used a lot of very explicit language, and it was good. And literally it was like, okay, we got to walk out of the room, leaving your keys and everything behind. And long story short, he comes out there and he's like, yeah, how'd you feel about that? How do you feel about somebody telling you, leave everything behind? Leave your car, leave your house, leave your church, leave the daycare you normally go to, leave the place where you normally work out at.
Change your schedule.
Change your entire life because of what someone else did, and you're the victim. And he's like, so think about that. If you're ever on a call and you tell this guy or girl, you just need to leave. And again, the police, they're just worried about
my safety.
Your safety.
And I don't fault them for that.
Yeah, you're like,
odd both times I'm being told I should, do you need to leave your home,
Yeah. You're like, I worked for this.
Yeah.
Those are my,
Yeah.
I'm feeding my dogs. My
Yorkies are staying here.
Yorkies.
Yeah.
So we know serious.
Yes.
They are.
They have
But
sharp little teeth.
Small, mighty.
It's one of those things where people, we're going to, going back kind of, I don't want to use this as a Mark of Cain syndrome, but people can say the wrong thing to you. And deep down what they mean is we're worried about you. But when the whole thing is you just need to get out of there and get rid of, whatever, it could be taken the wrong way. Like,
Yeah.
hey, give up all of your stuff, He's not worth that. Just walk away. Well, you're right. He's not worth it. And just like I lectured you, you can replace certain things in life. If it can be bought with money, you can replace it.
That was a hard conversation.
Sure. But it's, and it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And the point is you didn't do this. You didn't start this. But you are learning, like when we tell everybody, gunfight, knife fight, being choked to death fight, it's all the same, really. It's all deadly force. Is that if you win, when you win, all you are is alive. You didn't win anything.
Yeah.
You have your same job, your same bills, your same everything, plus this whole new world of stress. And you start spending money right away. And we'll talk about that.
There was probably 3 months he didn't do anything. And here I am not working, having to figure out, okay, I've got mortgage. I got
Why didn't you
car
just go to work right the next day, right?
They thought I should.
Yeah.
But I was the marks on my neck. I do what I could. There were just days I just didn't feel like leaving the house.
Yeah.
And, terms like PTSD have been thrown around.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you feel that you have some symptoms or signs of like PTSD?
I feel like sometimes like the anxiety and just like the flashbacks and stuff. I mean, I still have nightmares every once in a while. I don't sleep very well, but the nightmares will be very realistic. And where I wake up and I'm like crying because everything's so realistic. It's another attack.
Are there certain situations that make you uncomfortable and you
Crowds.
don't know why?
Crowds right now make me really uncomfortable unless
Really?
I'm with close friends. Because
Did you used to be a social butterfly kind of girl?
yeah,
I mean, you go to Cubs game, you got
Yeah.
to be around people.
I feel safe in Chicago though, because I know he's not going to be there. And if he was, it'd be impossible to find him probably. So, but no, those really. I was nervous about going out for St. Patrick's Day, and you and I had a talk about that. And you're like, if you're going to go out, there's going to be a ton of cops out that day. That did
Yeah.
make me feel better.
Sure.
But I mean, it's situations like that where you do get nervous being in large crowd areas because what if he did come up behind me? What if somebody didn't? And so I don't know if that will go away or not.
Do you find yourself, have you ever heard the term hypervigilance?
I'm
have you-
constantly paying
Yeah,
attention.
so do you feel like you're always doing
Oh,
like
yeah.
you're always like switch on all the time?
Yep, and between Ernie and my dad and stuff, watch the garage door when you pull in the garage, and then every time I let the dogs out at night, I have my gun by the back door.
exhausting, isn't it?
It is. And everybody's like, you got to let it go. You shouldn't worry so much. You're going to be fine. And it's like, how do you know I'm going to be fine? Can you really guarantee my safety? I mean, there's been the no contact. One of the most upsetting things that happened was after we reached this plea deal on Friday, after me consenting on some of the stuff, I really wanted him to get counseling. My goal in this was not to ruin his life. My goal was not to see him go and spend all this time in jail. My goal was to hope that he would get help. Because he can be a great guy. He just has some problems that he
I'm
needs
only
to
going
work
to let that one time, but keep going.
So after it ended up just being the domestic with bodily, or not domestic, assault with
Assault
bodily injury instead of the domestic assault. By not being domestic, he is not required to take all those extra classes. And so I held on pretty firm that I wanted him to do substance abuse counseling. And his attorney was not happy about that. As we're driving away from the courthouse. I'm in my parking spot, getting ready to back up, and he comes up, just driving by in the street, and he grabs his neck, and he's like, it looks like he's yelling obscenities to me from his car. So I'm sitting here thinking, you know, I just gave in a little bit. I didn't have to do that. I could have stuck to my guns a little bit longer. I mean, we could have went to court.
That's very upset because you're going through it again. Did part of you just do it to be done with it?
Yeah, because it's exhausting. It was like another part-time job. You know, when people say stuff about you, and then you're trying to find, you know, for example, there was a girl that played softball that was saying some stuff, and she didn't know Mike.
Mm-hmm.
She knew me a little bit, but we're not friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying stuff, so I had to talk to the guy that runs the softball thing to see if he'd say anything about my character,
Mm-hmm.
to dispute some of the stuff she was saying. I mean, it was like literally a full-time job, just always trying to like count what was being done. And of course, on all these Facebook and Instagram posts, there was not a single one printed out that said, you know, modifying my workout today. I mean, I never like fully said why I was injured. I just said I had a slight injury I'm working through. I'm modifying my workouts. Not one of those posts was pulled. Only the ones that made life look all perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sure. Nor did you ever go on there and rant and rave and say what he did to you.
no.
So
Today was literally the first day to post anything about the.
yeah, you definitely told Jim you went from not saying anything to we're out there now.
Yeah.
I promise you, more than a couple hundred people are going to see this video in the long run.
Yeah.
And again, you told me wholeheartedly you wanted to help people, and we'll see how far you take that. As in, sadly, you know, it's like when you're in a room full of people. They joke about it in the Army. You know, if you look at these line of Army guys and say, you know, 50%, they'll all look left and right and be like, poor son of a bitch next to you.
Poor
you
guy
know, like
next
it's
to
never
me.
going to be me. You know, you're in a county where this happens. There's more than 500 cases a year. And as you now very well understand, most cases don't go reported. Not just, you know, charged or pleaded to something. They don't even get reported.
I read an article recently.
The national average is less, you know, they ease on 20%. I think it's as low as only 10%. So if Lynn County has 500 cases that are going to court, does that mean there's 5,000 cases a year? And based on 180,000 people in Lynn County, it really probably is.
Well, based on what she already said, it's surprising though. Your first thought was, I'm going to ruin my marriage by making this phone call.
Yeah.
You
I was
were-
terrified.
Yeah, you weren't sure you even wanted to do it.
No.
Yep.
And I mean, for the first month, it was a lot of back and forth feelings. And my friends are going, no, you are not doing this. And, you
As
know,
in not backing out of this.
they did not want me back with him. My friends,
Sure.
but
Well, you know, you said something important, and I've learned something from you. Is like, this would be how do I? Anything else in your marriage? You seem like the kind of person that's like, we're going to try to work through this.
and I did. Like, so we did the couples count for a year.
Yeah. Anybody that tries to kill you, like you said, I think I believe you, the police believe you, everybody else is. You had no idea drugs were involved.
No.
Do you think it changed him?
Yeah. When we first got married, he was about 240 pounds. And seeing him at the courthouse on Friday, he's very skinny.
You're getting emotional.
Yeah. It pains you to see somebody,
Sure.
you know, that, I don't know. I don't know what he's on, if he's on something, but I do find it odd that somebody could come from 40 pounds down to 170, 160. And because he was at 180 when this all happened. And that's a lot of weight to lose when you're not working out and you're still drinking beer. I mean, if I could lose that kind of weight and not work out, I'd totally do that. But this
Sell
doesn't,
that
it doesn't
technique,
generally
right?
happen.
Yeah, I need that.
You figure that out, and then we'll get to interview you when you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
And you figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So you told Ernie, or I think you said when the first time you met him, that you said the statement or something to the effect that, you know, the training I took from you saved my life. So what specific training or what training in general helped you in this situation?
We had that women's assault class, and there had been something going on in the news about that time. There was some sort of realtor incident.
Well, you had the Des Moines. What was said
Yes.
was actually the realtor that got murdered down in Arkansas. Yeah. actually got more press than the one that it's like, what's sad is 2 years ago it happened in Des Moines, and it's like less remember that than the one that's over. But yeah, I mean, that's when I talked to a lot of different realtors, and again, just out of good for like Skogman and some of them. It's like,
and
I really
Caldwell
did it.
agents.
Yes, and Caldwell, but Skogman, Skogman also. It's like, I'm proud that they're like, hey, we'll go and pay for this.
Yeah,
because,
that was awesome.
Because it's, everybody likes to complain about their jobs once in a while, but when your boss will pay for you to go through something like that, that's awesome.
Exactly.
And it's weird.
And it's a tax write-off too.
Yeah, there you go. Realtors.
Yes.
But like you said, is who knows? Hey, would it have ever crossed your mind to bite his finger once I tried to know?
The only thing I can remember from when attending the classes is you talked about different ways, and I was having a hard time finding leverage. I mean, like, you're trying to push up on arms, you're moving your hands, you're trying to claw, you're trying to do whatever. And I mean, it happens so quick, and you're just sitting there like, what do I do? And so, I mean, it was just literally one of those things, you got to keep thinking, you got to keep trying here. But I literally felt like my eyes were rolling back in my head. And at that time, it literally, his finger came, and that was the only opportunity I felt I had at that point. And so I took it.
It worked.
So do you think, I'm going to put words in your mouth, so if you're like, no, that's fine. I'm just going to ask this question. Do you think the training enhanced your will to survive, or at least gave you the proper mindset?
It just made me keep thinking, like, I've got to get out of that.
Do you have thought that maybe 6 months before, had you not taken the training, do you think? Or you would have acted the same? Or
I don't know if I would have thought exactly the same. I mean, because I was trying not to panic. And I think that's like a big thing, is just trying to keep your composure as much as you can, although you're not really keeping
somebody
your composure.
choking you, you're allowed to not keep your composure.
But just trying to think logically, and
so process the information and have some sort of action to coincide with that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to keep trying to get out of the situation and just keep fighting. And I know his mom had said stuff about, oh, well, you should have seen the scratches on his arms and you should have seen the bite mark on his finger and, the fact that I work out and all that. I mean, it was poor him. It's been poor him this entire time. And that's been one of the other frustrations, too, is like, he signed that, but he doesn't care. He does not take responsibility for his actions.
No, I mean, legally he did.
But he hasn't.
Legally he did to an extent, sure. But no, you're right.
And so I think that's the toughest part too. And
I'm not here to bash him. Don't know him. Don't care about him. But are you going to quit worrying about everything now?
No.
No. That doesn't just go away.
Still angry husband out there.
Sure.
Just agreed to these charges. So.
Yeah. Tell me how, if you will, how has therapy helped you?
Great. It has taught me that it's not my fault. In the beginning, when people would ask, about the divorce or whatever, or, hey, I haven't seen him in your Facebook pictures, my typical response in the beginning was, we're going through a divorce. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. And I just kind of sugarcoated it at that. And then a little bit later, after kind of going to therapy a while, it was one of those things where it was like, it was a domestic issue. We're getting worse. And I'll tell you what, by the end of this, it's been more like, that jerk tried to kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, it does change. Because at some point you're like, why should I make excuses for him?
Sure.
And it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. And if somebody wants to judge somebody because of domestic violence, then they clearly have bigger issues than me. So
it's a thing. It affects everybody. I don't care about your race, religion, whatever. I don't care about your social. I mean, domestic violence affects everybody. One of the things in any of our training we try to remind people is, we'll use the terms training context, is people don't normally see it coming. Whether it's the person in the parking lot that attacks you, whether it's the guy that jumps on you when you get out of your car, when you pull into your own garage. Just as shocking when it's your own husband, right? Mm-hmm. So I use that term a lot in class when I tell people that if, statistics we're not going to live our life based off statistics, as in this person's most likely to hurt you, so therefore just stay away from that person. You know, everybody that just because 28%, and I say just because, that's a huge number. 28% of dead females every year in this country were killed by their significant other. It doesn't mean every single person should be out there looking at their spouse every day saying they're going to kill me. But it's shocking when, you know, that's what people need to prepare for, is you literally might have to use life, death, deadly force against someone that you used to say I love you to, that you currently say I love you to. And I don't think a lot of people believe us when we say that, is they expected it to be, you know, oh, some scary guy in the Walmart parking lot at 2 a.m. that was, you know, dressed this way, or this way, whatever their preconceived. But when realistically they need to train for what happened to you. Or when people say, oh no, you know, I know Amanda didn't come in and we wouldn't have thought that about so-and-so anyway. I'm not even going to say the name. So
People didn't think that he would do something like that. And I mean, generally, like when we were out and about, he'd come across back and mellow. I mean, he had his moments, you know, after he'd been drinking that he'd get a little bit irritable. But, you know, to his coworkers and most of his friends, they all thought he was easygoing.
yeah,
So
maybe, but you know, if this happened to you, when I say it just happened to Amanda, you go to work, and do you worry about him showing up at your work?
I do.
Do you
They
think his
know I have an
coworkers
order at
should
the
your
office.
coworkers also worry about him showing up at your work? Yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
and what
yeah.
I'm saying is,
I worry, is he gonna think that it's somebody like I'm dating or whatever?
you mean you're out doing something that
That makes
you
him
had the right to
angry.
do?
Yeah.
So once
Hey,
you
somebody
yeah.
sent me a good question. Look at this.
Okay, good.
Hey, that thing's not rolling through, is it? Like nobody asking questions.
That's
All right.
because it's on the.
They're listening.
Yeah, they're listening. So let me ask you a question. First, to make clear to everybody, you weren't wearing a gun when it happened.
No, I had just left the Colonel's game, 4th of July, and beer consumed.
Sure, you know, and that's
Real life right there.
that's real life. Absolutely, everybody needs to go in, you know, choice alcohol once in a while and do it responsibly. So, did it ever go through your mind since then, like, what if this, what if that, what if I would have had my knife, what if I would have been carrying my gun? Which, again, back to the real facts are, you were drinking and you were at Colonel's game. It's not a place to do that.
I mean, at home now. The other day, there was a delivery that came to my house, and I didn't know who it was, and they rang the doorbell a second time, and I'm like, oh man. So you're having a little internal battle, like, do you answer the door? I don't know who it is.
The answer is no.
I did, with the gun in my other hand that was behind. But it sits
How many
on my
delivery guys actually do have no idea? They're like, oh, I met this nice lady, you know, that she got her Cubs coat sent. Or really, she's on a gun behind the door.
Quite a few, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So I mean, you do start. You do. I am weird about that now. I hate answering the door.
And by the way, some people dress up like fake delivery people to do home invasions. That's like a real thing.
Yeah.
You can go on, watch videos on the internet of
Why
it.
am I gun now? You
Sure.
know, so it's
But-
all good.
Just to make it clear, because I know you know this, it's not a magical tool that always helps you, is it?
No.
You know,
Hopefully they see it and off running.
that would be great.
Yeah.
That's what we call psychological stop.
Yeah.
Let's count on those.
I
can always
know.
count on
It'd be
those.
nice though.
You know, I've said this a couple times to you. It's like, think about if you would have shot him, which would have been 100% justified. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to go out on a limb here because, first of all, well, we all know Ernie's only a high school educated guy. This right here, what he pled to, is already enough that, yes, you could shoot him. So the point is, you could have shot him. And when I say could have, legally, you could have. How hard would it have been? Let's say you were even sober and you were wearing a gun when it happened, and how it went physically, like literally where it was on the floor, wherever. You know, it's not as easy as people think, is it?
At that point, I don't think I could have done it. I mean, if I was in my bedroom sleeping tonight and he broke into my house, it might be a little different after everything I've gone through with all this. But I mean, like, you talked about it enough in your classes and to me, like, this has been bad enough going through, and to imagine the public scrutiny of
Sure.
what I'd go through if I would have shot him or whatever.
Sure.
The other thing, you had got me to consider getting a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really nice because that's something that you can carry on you
Sure.
every day, all the time. And so that's a nice option too, you know.
We have a knife class you're going to come to this summer and meet this real Italian guy that can come here from California and teach you how to use it.
All right.
Yeah, he does. He talks that way. You'll remember him. And again, so not to mix your story with other people's, but just what you said is you're starting to get, you've already lived it. I shouldn't say starting to get, you've lived what it's like to say, look how scrutinized everything is, dragging your life out into court.
There's still somebody that is on my
Sure.
stuff sharing information with
Yes,
him.
there is someone still that's screwing her over, so quit doing that.
Yeah.
So-
And I did post something about that today. I said I was doing this and
Sure.
go ahead and tell
You
him.
just need to live your life. There's always that.
We got a question from Carrie up there. Wants to know, she missed the first half, and just so I'm not missing, she wants to know if your husband is in jail, and he is not.
No, he was in jail for 30 hours, and then when he got picked up for the no contact order, he was in there for less than a day, and so it was a felony and ended up, you know, pleading less. But he will have some jail time. I don't think that has been determined yet.
It says that this official copy of what he has signed in his plea agreement says that he understands pleading guilty, he could be sentenced to up to 1 year in jail.
I think that the way that one of my attorneys explained that he broke the no contact order
Okay.
again. I'm not exactly sure. That's the other thing with these legal documents.
This agreement is totally launching 180 days in jail, but all at 2 days suspended.
So if he violates the
Yeah.
provisions of, is he on probation?
He is on probation
Oh, yeah.
now.
So
Does
And
that make
still
you feel
won't
safer?
divorce me.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's the catch. I'm like, man.
I don't mean to make light of it, but all I can think of is Dumb and Dumber. It's like, you're saying there's still a chance. So,
No.
Carrie, the question, how many minutes of that go? It's not in jail. I don't know if he'll end up in jail again. I guess that depends on if he stays away from you
Yeah.
or stays out of trouble. I hope you never find out, as in he doesn't come back. Yeah, you talked to me on a Wednesday, I believe. It was a Wednesday, and you were like, he'd already the non, and you're like, they issued that Friday. You know, why is he not in jail? And I tried to do my best of telling you, like, if you remember, I'll tell you very much what I said is, you know, they went to his house and looked for him.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't there. And, you know, they're not just going to go, oh, well, where could he be then? Then let's everybody go find him. They're just moving on to the next Amanda's case and the next Amanda's case. And, well, maybe this guy will be home that beat up this woman. Maybe this guy will be home and this beat up this woman and no contact. Or, you know.
So they probably should below and be on the lookout for, and then, like, if he happened to get spotted,
Yeah.
he gets scarfed up.
And that's the frustrating
Yeah.
thing through all this.
But that's
It
the
just-
reality of the
Yeah,
thing.
it just
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're not a priority. And I realize that, you know, having talking with you and having talking with the prosecutor now, you know, the amount of time that it takes these cops to process somebody when they bring them in. And so they might only get 2 of them in a day or whatever. And so, you know, it is frustrating because when it's your life, it's super important to you.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's other people that have other things too. But I mean, it is frustrating because you've called the cops. He's angry. He knows he's in trouble.
Well, that's the good and the bad part about living in this country is they have to protect the accused rights as well. So, I mean, they have so many hoops that they got to go through that it does get frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like brought up, I had told you, if that deputy has a great day and he goes out and catches 2 of these guys, his day's done. You know,
Yeah.
he's got 20 people he's looking for, but he can't take all 20 to jail today. It's not going to happen.
It just seems like this process is so slow.
Well, sure.
And, you know, and
All over an event that took 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10
Yeah.
seconds.
and then to have it be drug on this long, you know, there's got to be ways that stuff can be changed to make things more efficient or something. I mean, it's not a situation where you're there waiting. So,
Did you, on this show, we don't sugarcoat the thing, right? So,
Not hard.
were you ever frustrated with your local attorney's office?
yes, that
Sure.
might be an entertainment.
But you
I did
kinda-
hug him on Friday.
Yeah, I know you told
and
me you hugged
he
him.
looked
and
really shocked and scared.
Hopefully, I do know they have a heavy load. So, you know, I'm not here to bash the county attorney's office. I'm not, because as much as I don't like things pled down, I don't. I would hate to see that. As a victim, I don't want there to ever be a plea.
And we should probably comment too. The plea deal.
Sure.
We were not offered a deal at this
Yeah.
point. I mean,
But
the
you-
prosecutor was willing to take it to court, but
But you accepted it,
yes.
so you could move on with your life.
Correct.
Yeah, and I get it. But at least that's and that's a great point. Because the point is, you accepted it. It was fine. What I don't want to see is them playing things without you.
Mhm.
I say as being a victim, I've been a victim of a crime, and it's like you're like, no, I want them charged with this. I want to stick with this. Do I understand why you let him plead to a lesser charge? Because you want to move on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what he would have got convicted of, will you always worry about him?
Absolutely.
So it changes.
No.
It's again back to, like you said, you're the one that gave things up to move forward with this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you gave things up to get it over with, so to speak, even though I know you mean that term like legally get it over with. It's never really going to be something that's not on your mind.
Well, and the fact that we leave the parking lot today,
Sure.
okay, I could have been much worse and much more difficult and stuck to my guns on everything.
Sure.
And then he does that strangling motion in his
Mhm.
car, and I'm like, that really upset me.
Sure.
You know.
So, you know, and like a lot of bad guys, he might just be doing what he needs to do to move on to get with. He's really changed. Never knew him before, don't know him after. All I know is what he pled guilty to and what you said he did. So, it's just another example of, like you said it feels like everything goes slow when it's something so traumatic to you.
Yeah.
And the truth is, and someone's been through it, nobody cares about it as much as you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Nobody's at risk. When I say nobody's at risk, you're probably the number one person at risk of this guy until he meets another girl, you know?
Yeah.
And you might be one of those women that 1 year from now, you see him out with talking to her, oh, girl, you don't know what you're in for.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? That's where I am going to tell you, you need to move on. Don't worry about him. Move on. Yeah, well,
I'll be
I want-
thankful if he starts dating somebody.
that would be great. I'll be thankful if he just moves on with his life and doesn't hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
Maybe he should move to another. I want to look through some of your notes here. Let's see.
Can we do a
yes.
plug for the crime victims
Yeah,
program?
I was going to ask
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, you talk about whatever you want. You're the guest.
So I love the crime victim program. I had no idea, they give you this little pamphlet when they come to your house, and, we have the huge paperwork here from the stuff. So me pack it, and you're kind of like, what is this? And my first thought was, I'm not going to qualify based on my income. This is probably for low income. It wasn't. When I had talked with the county attorney's office, they had told me to call and apply. And I'm like, this is going to be a pain. It's going to take forever. It was actually super easy. So I wrote down my therapist's information. I wrote down my doctor's information. And they reimbursed me for the cost of the visits.
Sure.
And he will have to pay this back. They did have a $500 deal for security. So I got my lottery away, got the security system. They do look at like what your income was. My income was down almost half this past year. I was on track as of June 1st to do better than I had in 2015. This happened, and last half of the year was not very impressive for me last year. So they did compensate me for some of my work that was lost and everything. They also, sorry, I'm getting nervous again. They reimbursed me as well for the living expenses and some other
Sure.
You have to pay that much, which, I mean, in my mind, I don't know if he knows about all that yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not going to be happy when he figures out the tab on that. But that's such a great program. And if a woman is in this situation, just fill out the paperwork. It's super easy. They'll help you. They'll explain to you what things are covered. It takes a little bit to get the money, but I mean, something's better than nothing. And then as long as he's charged with anything, he'll have to pay it back.
And who's that program through?
It's the Crime Victims Compensation Program. It's out of Des Moines.
So
And-
is it a private entity? Is it a government entity?
I believe it's government. They give you all the stuff like when a cop come to your house for the domestic, and so they give it to you all up
It's
front.
probably a state agency.
Yeah, I believe so. It's state government things. Yeah, really neat program, and one of the positive things through one of the things that you don't get too angry where you're like, oh, okay. So
Well, yeah, like I said, it doesn't replace your peace of mind or what you've gone through for the last year, but so you're doing good today. I know you're nervous, but you're doing
Yeah.
good. Would you want to talk to people in the future?
I'm certainly open to it.
Would you like to? What if people get a hold of me like they often do? What if they send a message or email or whatever it is? Can I talk to her? Can I come meet her at your store and talk to you, or I have some questions for her? Would you be up for helping somebody with that?
Absolutely. I had two friends actually reach out to me during all of that, and they kind of knew something was off, and they had reached out, and they had been through situations, not to everybody's situation is so different. Theirs had similarities with abuse and whatnot, though, and it was so amazing to be able to talk to somebody that shared pieces. Because otherwise, you do feel like you're alone out there because nobody talks about it.
Sure.
And so just to have those people, that meant the world to me at that time. And still does, that they would share their story with me like that and
Yeah, it's
try to help me.
It's important to not only one. Definitely. Said I'm sure you met people in your life or whatever that they maybe don't have as many friends or the same support group you do, or like you said, not have the same support group and have two children that, rely on them, and that's quite a load for them to take care of.
Yeah.
During all that, worried about their safety, worried about your children's safety.
And if you are the friend, don't think you're a person. It's,
Sure.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, Mikey and Ann, they have both been so amazing to me. I just can't imagine my life without those two.
Thank you, Nikki and Ann.
Yes, you're awesome.
So,
And my family's been pretty cool too. If I don't say that, my mom will probably get it with me.
I
so.
wonder if your mom's figured out how to do Facebook Live yet.
I don't
maybe.
know. Probably. She's pretty smart.
If you're out there. So, just to clarify, we'd like to have you back, or I'd like to have an opportunity for people to meet you at the store sometime in the future. You want to go forth and keep helping people with this?
Absolutely.
Are you going to stay for how the? Let me ask you this.
I want the legislation change.
There you go. You were
because
talking
that's-
about wanting to do something. I'm like,
That's the big thing.
well, good luck.
So I don't know. I might start writing some letters and see if I can get any response out of some of our
What would you want to change?
timelines of all this. And, obviously everybody's situation is different. So it's not like they can hand you a little guidebook and be like, this is how your story go. But nobody told me the trial would get changed 3 times. Nobody told me, how nasty depositions would be. Nobody tells you this stuff. And I mean, like, you kind of, I would have came to you day one. It would have taken you hours to explain
Sure.
how everything was going to go.
Sure.
And so, I do feel like if you have somebody that kind of knows what's going on, it's helpful. But the no contact order, that still baffles me. Like, you break it, I thought I yeah.
Yeah. And they swept and got him right there.
Yeah, I
So-
was kind of hoping so.
The black helicopter.
Yes.
Something.
We wish it could be like that. Maybe we say they'll do that with drones in the future. They'll just reach
Yeah.
down, grab people by the head, suck them up to the drone, take them off to county. So,
Yeah.
Say, hey, look, your mom's made a comment.
Barb,
Or,
Oh,
oh, it's
hi,
not Kim.
Mom.
Oh,
her
no.
first name's Kim.
No, Kim's my dad.
I'm sorry. Barb, Kim Grant. There we go. I'll get it right.
She did
Mom
figure it out.
handed this song. She did figure it out. We're proud of her that she actually figured out Facebook Live. That's awesome.
My dad, he goes on eBay now.
Your dad goes on eBay?
Yeah, they're surpassing.
Is that dangerous?
Oh,
Is he like into collectible trackers, cost of $1 billion, or
he does some picking stuff. Where
does
he
he?
sells it. Yeah.
And he tries to resell it?
Yeah.
Yes.
They
The
have
way
a
to do
hobby
that
now.
is you need to buy it in person at garage sales and
Yeah.
second-hand thing, and then sell it on eBay. He's
He
doing
was at
it
a
backward.
sale
He needs-
today.
Yeah.
Well, no, he did buy it.
Good.
Sell
He
it.
can
Mom
buy in
does the
person,
photos and
sell on
uploads
eBay.
it.
Yes. Tell him to go for Gary Vee on the internet and how much money you can make selling eBay.
So is there some final thoughts you'd like to kind of leave us with?
Yeah. Educate us.
To his friends, he's clearly guilty. Obviously, you don't plead guilty if you don't do anything wrong.
You don't sign your life away if you're not.
You don't get charged with felony if you don't do anything wrong. So to his friends that want to say nasty stuff, I could really care less. That'll kind of be my final note on those people, I guess.
All right.
We'll end with those, but honestly, just make sure you stick with some people and don't be afraid to talk about it. If you bottle it all up, there were a lot of tears, a lot of times, and a lot of ruffles in Netflix. But
There's nothing wrong
talking
with
about
Ruffles
it-
and Netflix.
if you and I would have sat down and done this a month ago, there probably would have been a lot of tears.
Mhm.
I mean, the more I talk about it and get away with this, and we had the resolution on Friday, or somewhat resolution.
Sure.
It does get easier, and I hope that will kind of continue to go as I try to move forward with everything and hopefully get.
So
the
we have
divorce
this
done.
whole other Facebook page called Men's Training Network.
Yes.
I want you to get involved with that.
Okay.
Like you said, the exact words, you said them today, and I remember them when you were like angry the other day, is that this has been a part-time job for you.
It has been.
Yeah, like a part-time job of just gathering the things and doing the things, doing the things you do.
Emailing and calling.
Sure.
It is time consuming, and that's the other thing. I tell people not to get frustrated with that and stick with it.
So I want you to get involved with Women's Training Network, and maybe like that can be a regular place where people send you questions, whether they want to ask them in private, or if they want to ask it on the page. But I would love to have you involved in that.
Yeah.
And going out and learning how to save your life physically, whether with or without guns or tools or whatever, that's all super important, and we really believe in it. But people that know me well enough know that, there's a lot more to me, to Mike, to my store, and what we do is there's a difference between just surviving and still living.
Mhm.
And you're just getting back to living.
I'm excited about this.
Sure. And you,
Although I'm so worried, I'm excited.
sure. I mean, you have to first survive to breathe there and live another day, and then you have to know what's coming after that. I want to put it. Unfortunately, nothing that happened to you is new.
Mhm.
It happens millions of times a year in the United States of America, millions. So the problem is somebody like you can help everybody around here. You could be like the little hope around here. And I'm willing to have some other people reach out to you, and like you said, and maybe share their story. You can share your story, and maybe it'll turn out to be you can have a man today every third Monday of the month or whatever. So I hope we can keep you involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm super proud of you. I'm not your parent. Yes, look, Amanda would love to have you at one of our ATN meetings.
Oh.
That's Julie from the store who runs that.
Okay.
She wants your help.
Okay.
You would, there's several women that want to get involved with that I think you would get along well and come from different backgrounds and would be a good wide most people don't have experience with violence, and I'm glad they don't. You can have input. I'm very interested in not wanting you to have to tell your story over and over, even though, like you said, you become less emotional about it. I want you to stay that pissed off Amanda that was talking to me not too long ago.
I'm sure he'll piss me if you get it.
Yeah, yep. But if you can make changes in legislation, bless your heart. But I'm glad you're here.
And if anybody out there knows how to go about that and assist me in that, I would totally be open to suggestions on that too.
I think you could probably find some people and introduce you to politicians, and we could probably introduce you to some local people in the media that might, again, your story. So don't hit me. Your story is no big deal because you're okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're okay as in you lived. So few people realize what you went through. First physically, emotionally, financially, all this. To where it's like, oh, well, if you would have been the blonde realtor that they found in a dumpster, everybody would remember that for a year or two.
Yeah.
And your friends would remember. But the fact that you're okay, people have a short memory. And I like your passion about it. I think you can help other people. I think it's a super important part of what we do for a living, and not just for a living, what I do in whole, as in wanting people to be Here's how to train to try to see it coming. Here's how to train to deal with it if you can't stop it from happening. And here's how to train to realize it's not just over because you're alive. So many more things to and obviously the thing I can't know or even perceive is from the woman's point of view and the frustrations you've had. And they're going to try to tear apart anybody, especially in court. They're going to try to tear you apart using social media and everything else and your friends. And we saw you drinking 5 green beers on St. Patty's Day, so you must be perfectly fine. You know, that crap happens today. It's definitely pretty mean when they try to tear women down that have been in your position. You know, you are the victim. You're actually the good person. And yet they can try to make you, you know, anything to ruin your credibility, anything to make you look like a liar, anything all the way back to, oh, well, why did it talk about it on the first day when it just happened to you and it was fresh in your mind? People, I saw that statement just the other day used in a police shooting scenario. Not a scenario, it was a real shooting. And I'm not trying to play armchair quarterback, but they literally said the words, I wanted to get my statement down while it was still fresh in my mind. I think science has shown that he's already shown you remember more if you give yourself a day or two. You know, a lot of the professionals, Mass IU, tons of people, they'll say you need 2 or 3 cycles of REM before your brain will even start giving you back some of those pictures that it took, saying, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened. And sometimes you'll never remember it until someone else brings it up.
Yeah.
Like when you
stuff.
Sure. Yeah, and people that don't believe in that, they just haven't been through really traumatic things. So most people experience that have been through traumatic things, and you'll get pictures back in your brain for years. You'll have crystal clear, you know, dreams for the rest of your life. You know, I'm pretty sure even your therapist isn't going to tell you that that's going to go away forever. Because it's to control what you do about. Is your wife yelling at us? You didn't tell me you were on.
Yeah, I did. Anyway. Okay.
That's Mike's wife.
It's my wife. She likes to yell at me on Facebook.
All right.
Can we do a plug for self-defense class too then?
Well,
We probably recommend that people should do that.
we have another one probably in the middle of summer or the end of summer. But when it's scheduled, I'm going to have you come to the store and make a Facebook video and tell everybody why they need to go. We'll totally do that. So I'll get it scheduled.
It'd probably be a good refresher for people if they haven't been through it. It's probably like learning Spanish. You forget it if you don't use it.
So I agree. Anything else? Mike, anything else?
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You guys have been incredible.
Well,
I appreciate that.
I hope so. Like it's just with the 3 of us talking other than, you know, 45 people were watching you once and a couple thousand people get in the next 24 hours. So,
Hate on me out there.
they don't. If they hate on you, then we will look them up and make funny faces about them and draw on the social page.
Perfect.
We're gonna keep rolling, right? Or are we gonna pause? What do you want to do? This is like real life. We're gonna pause.
Yep.
All right. So officially, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm very
guys.
proud of you.
I appreciate it.
Everything you've done to help. You were amazingly calm. I expect you to fall apart more. You can go home.
I've done that enough at home.
I want you to put on sweatpants, eat Ruffles, pet 2 dogs at once, and like binge watch Scandal. So
Yeah.
thank you very, very much, Amanda, and we're definitely get involved and definitely make it to where people can reach you.
Perfect.
And maybe if you can help one other person, that's more than what some people do.
Yeah.
You know, if one not give up. So again, thank you very, very much for sharing your story, something personal. And yes, I think maybe even some people that join us for classes, we'll see you in classes in the future.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get you out on the range more.
Yes.
You're going to come and have fun, and we'll give
Wear
you
my can holster thing.
Yes, you're everywhere, all the time, like she is right now. In case you're worried. All right. So we're going to sign off. Until next time. Thanks for watching CVO Gun Talk. As always, remember to watch out for the red Chevy truck. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Love to be here.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.
See ya. Okay. You guys